The Ungraspable Phantom, a history of listening. For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror. The image of the ungraspable phantom of life, and this is the key to it all. The echo of voices singing at an infinite distance. The visible, calm, and artificial breath of inspiration returning to the sky. The voice without a body is inherently uncanny. The drowned voice, the phantom of the sea. Every act of listening begins in the condition of the drowned, the ear submerged in an ocean of undifferentiated sound, hearing first the world as murmur, before the ego, before the narrative, before the self asserts its acoustical borders. To hear deeply is to enter the narcissist's waters, not as vanity but as terror. One leans towards sound the way a body leans towards its reflected abyss, hearing the world reflect back an ungraspable phantom. The sea is the earliest archive of acousmatic terror. Siren seal mistaken for men, drowned voices rising through the deep. All listening begins with the suspicion that sound originates from the dead. Mariners are the first phenomenologists of the voice without body. Their cosmology begins in wailing winds, ghostly choruses, and the uncanny equivalences between animal cry and human lament. Sound over water is never innocent. It elongates, refracts, arrives displaced from its source. It teaches the human ear that origin is always an illusion, and that listening is fundamentally a displacement art. The enchantment thresholds, doors, bridges, and bells. Every threshold that sings tries to put the listener to sleep. Brass gates, glass bridges, silver bells. The world seduces by sonic anesthesia, proving that listening is also a way of being lulled into forgetting. Charmed sound is the first pedagogy of illusion. The fortress that vanishes at dawn teaches the primordial lesson of listening. Sound can make one believe in worlds that dissolve the moment one wakes. The earliest architecture of listening was not built to be entered, it was built to be heard from the outside. Listening as exile, listening as the condition of the pilgrim who is barred from revelation. Every magical door in myth is turned like an instrument. Access is mediated by resonance, not by force. The world opens only to those who understand the pitch of its metal and its sleep it demands. The speaker of isles, birds, spirits, and assemblies. When the world learns to speak through birds, it announces the arrival of the polyphonic ontology. The many-voice choir marks the moment nature recognizes itself as capable of chorus. Every avian voice is a reminder that language began in feathers. Meaning first arose as shimmer, timbral modulation, vibrato carried on the wings, not through propositions but through flight. I always found out that bots say hi. Hello, hi. The Isle of Speaking Birds is the true birthplace of musicking, not because birds sing, but because humans first heard themselves in the birds, recognizing pattern, rhythm, and congregation. Humans discovered community by tracking distant choruses, psalms drifting over the sea, birds chanting like monks, wind humming in telegraph wires. Sound is the first model of collective synchronicity. The choir is older than the individual voice. Listening begins in the plural. The singular voice is the later invention of writing properly. Acousmatic order, voice without bodies. The acousmatic voice is the evolutionary remainder of the dead, a sonic fossil rising from wells, pipes, cisterns, telephone lines, or the white noise of streams. Every disembodied voice destabilizes sovereignty. Kafka's Castle speaks in infinite children voices, proving the law has no body and thus no finality. The uncanny of the voice arises not from the absence of body, but from the ear's desire for one. Listening strives always to incarnate the source. When it cannot, it invents spirits, gods, and technologies. Haunted sound is humanity's first epistemology. Before truth, there was vibration. Before authority, resonance. Before knowledge, echo. Listening to disembodied voices is an ethical training. It teaches the listener to endure ambiguity, to accept meaning that never fully arrives, and to live with signals without sources. Pan-acoustic world, pan, pastoral, pagan, signal. Pan is the first name for the terror of too much hearing. He appears when the thresholds between nature and sound and human sound collapses, inducing the primal panic of being overheard by the world. Myths of Pan reveal a deep acoustical truth. The first instrument was a body transformed. Pan's pipes teach the sound is a hybrid domain, neither human nor animal, but the zone where passion becomes acoustics. The pastoral is not innocence, but instability. Beneath every reed pipe lies violence, dismemberment, metamorphosis. The pastoral is always one scream away from the forest's teeth. Every invocation of Pan is a warning against over-civilization. The god returns whenever the auditory world exceeds the conceptual world, whenever the ear outpaces the world. The inner ear, hypersensitivity, and the ecological listening. The inner ear is not anatomical but ecological. It awakens only in silence, dense enough to hear sap rising, insects burrowing, the soil breathing. Hyper-listening is indistinguishable from madness and a civilization too loud to hear itself. Those who hear grass grow are either saints, animals, or outcasts. To hear the world too clearly is to lose one's place in it. Deep listening threatens the hierarchy that places humans atop nature. It reveals our irrelevance. The inner ear experiences the world as a monstrous continuity. No separation between water, wind, blood, bark, bone. Listening as dissolution of species boundaries. Environmental crisis is a crisis of listening. The dulling of the senses is the first step towards planetary unmaking. The ear is the earliest ecological sensor to fail. The chthonic ear, depth, underworld, subterranean speech. To listen downward is to encounter other kingdoms of organization. Roots speaking, soil murmuring, water tunneling through stone. Subterranean sound reveals the earth's recursive intelligence. Every underworld begins with an ear. The descent into Hades. Lynch's severed ear pounds roots speaking together. The portal to the chthonic is always auditory. The ear is a cavern in which the world echoes itself. Hearing is the interiorization of geology. The skull is resonant chamber of the planet's own murmuring. Chthonic listening teaches the truth of decomposition, that identity is temporary arrangement of vibrations destined to rejoin soil and air. Evolutionary listener, musicking a species event. Listening is older than music. Before humans musicked, they listened. Musicking is the crystallization of 1,000,000 years of attentive survival. The evolutionary chain of listening passes through animals, forest, ocean, telegraph wires, myth, and machine. Every era adds a new conduit but preserves the same hunger for patterned sound. The human ear is a hybrid archive of evolutionary layers: mammalian startle reflex, primate call recognition, hominin rhythm tracking, modern symbolic interpretation. Musicking emerges when listening becomes reflexive, when the species turns its ear back on itself and discovers pleasure, pattern, and possibility in the very act of hearing. The history of listening is itself a form of cosmology, a map of how the world teaches the creature to perceive its own place within the storm. Haunted weathers, the climate of sound. Weather is the oldest orchestra, wind a soprano, thunder as bass drum, rain as granular percussion. All human music is a condensation of meteorological pedagogy. Haunted weather arises whenever sound exceeds explanation. When wind moans through wires, when storms produce phantom choirs, when silence vibrates with invisible presence. Climate is itself a mode of listening, the body adjusting to humidity, pressure, acoustical density. Every weather system is an instructor to attunement. Storms reveal sound as event rather than signal, a sonic vortex that resists interpretation, demanding surrender rather than analysis. The future ear towards the evolutionary orchestra. The future of listening is not technological but ontological. New instruments will emerge from new modes of being, not from devices. The next evolutionary orchestra will be planetary, integrating animal choruses, atmospheric drones, machine hums, biological pulsations, and human voices into a single living instrument. To listen futurally is to hear across species, materials, epochs, not merely what is present, but what is possible in the acoustics of a changing world. The ear is becoming fractal, capable of perceiving microsonic and macrosonic scales simultaneously, granular whispers of neurons and deep time drones of climate cycles. The destiny of musicking is not perfection but expansion, not mastery of sound but integration with the sonic life of the cosmos. Cycles of wind, body, and resonant becoming. Listening not to me but to the Logos. It is wise to agree that all things are one. The winds too are bodies. The skin is a surface of exchange. A God breathed into them a voice. The wind in the pages of the book of our life. Wind as first music. Before the throat, before the drum, before the reed, there was the wind. And the earliest ear was simply a membrane trembling before the atmospheric God. Wind is the original composer, its score written across leaves, cliffs, fur, skin, water, bone. Its instruments, anything that can vibrate. The Ilion principle precedes intention. Every human musician inherits this law, that sound is first a visitation, not a creation. All hearing is a confrontation with the invisible. Wind teaches us to trust that this immaterial can strike the body with the force of a hammer. Flesh as aeroplane. The body is an unfinished alien harp. Ribs as hollow resonators, lungs as bellows, pores as vents. Blood as circulating pressure. The skin is the first drumhead of the world, stretched over wind and bone, always on the verge of trembling. To breathe is to collaborate with the atmosphere. Each inhalation co-authors a score written jointly by organism and environment. Flesh remembers wind. Every shiver, goosebump, hair tilt is a microsonic memory of ancestral storms. Rhythm originates in respiration. The oscillation of air through mammalian thorax becomes the metronome of the species. Weather body, the climate within. Every organism is a weather system. Pressure, heat, humidity, turbulence. Human physiology is a compressed atmosphere. Emotion is meteorologically made personal. Grief is low pressure. Ecstasy is thermal updraft. Fear is a rapid drop in barometric expectation. The ear is a barometer disguised as an organ of meaning. It measures change before comprehension, registering the storm before thought names it. The alien flesh predicts its own climate. Long before intellect recognizes danger, the skin forecasts catastrophe. Sonic porosity, the permeable self. To have a body is to be penetrable by sound. The self is a porous membrane that wind, voice, and vibration continually traverse. There's no such thing as silent flesh. The body hums, circulates, murmurs. Listening inward reveals the acoustics of blood. The border between self and world is aerated. Sound crosses it effortlessly, proving that identity is a temporary arrangement of permeable tissues. Hearing is the most invasive of senses. Nothing touches us as intimately as resonance. Axioms of the winds of memory. Memory is a capacity where past winds collect. Every trauma a gust, every joy a warm updraft preserved in latent vibration. Recollection is meteorological recurrence. A sudden smell, a distant chord, a rustle. These trigger atmospheric reactivations of forgotten weather. The past returns as pressure, a tightening in the lungs, a pulse quickening. Memory is felt before it is recalled. Flesh is moving weather archive, an embodied climatology of everything that has ever passed through us. The erotics of air. Desire is the wind entering flesh with intention, a kind of directed breeze that rearranges the body's climate. The lover is an atmospheric event, breath on skin, pulse, synchronicity, heartbeats negotiating turbulence, two weather systems colliding and co-creating. Erotics is a rehearsal of resonance, bodies attuned to one another like neighboring strings on a single vast instrument. To kiss is to exchange climates, a merging of internal weathers, a brief unification of breath worlds. The temporal wind. Time moves like wind across flesh, gusting, pausing, accelerating. Aging is the gradual opening of resonant cavities. Bones hollow, voice deepens, breath acquires texture. Time turns the body into a wiser instrument. The future arrives first as a shift in the air, a subtle change in temperature, scent, or silence before an event announces itself. Aeolian temporality is nonlinear. Storms return, breezes repeat, seasons of the body echo across decades. Sonic animism, wind as deity. Wind is the oldest god because it needs no icon. It is the only deity that touches everyone equally without revealing its face. Every culture's myth of spirit begins in air. Pneuma, prana, chi, all born from the belief that life is breath organized by intelligence. To listen to wind is to hear the world thinking. The landscape dreams aloud in turbulence and flow. Aeolian flesh is the proof that nature speaks in vibration. The human body is the temple where that speech becomes sensation. All right, guys, that's the end of that. Check them out at zuccagallery.com. Come into my gallery in downtown Phoenix, 1301 Grand. I'll see you later.